Robert J. Conley here, doing this. What is it? Podcast, I guess it is. Last day of July, 2021, and so that means that we're, I think, 18 months into, or 17, 16 months into a pandemic, and it's partly responsible for today's episode. That experts are not leaders. Um, And it I want to be clear, that's not a knock on experts. It's just that we can't allow experts to dictate what we do, whether it's in business, whether it's in personal lives, whatever. So, experts by their very definition are narrow minded for the sake of becoming an expert. You have to go stay narrow and drill deep to be an expert. And when we look at what experts, the characteristics it takes to become an expert. So an expert needs to like inherently want to work autonomously. An expert wants to typically come up with their own solutions or their own take on things and then express those to the world. A scientist studies the atom for the sake of then being able to explain the atom. And and so there's this inherent autonomy seeking, freedom seeking, unique take, unique perspective seeking, um, on the part of because as part of becoming an expert. And what you also see is that most experts aren't terribly interested in the opinions of others. Um, if somebody has something useful within their field to teach them, they're all ears. But they're not interested in broadening that and taking from a spectrum. And so um, just as I describe those things, you start to see, oh yeah, oh wow, that okay, that is what makes an expert. And by the way, that's what uh, challenges that person to be a leader. And so, a leader requires the capacity to understand the most salient bullet points on a spectrum of topics. And so I don't want to make this political, but it's just one of the easiest illustrations I can use, and that is the pandemic. And so what we don't want to do as a society, I'm not saying we are or we aren't. I'm not you're gonna see me dance and try to just not be political, but still use this as an illustration. And that is that and it's actually kind of part normal human nature, but there is a deference to the medical experts on this topic. Now, what we need to remember if we want to continue to have a vibrant, thriving economy is to remember that there are a zillion variables in keeping that going. And in a very real way, and I don't even say in a very real way, but we're at war with COVID. And by virtue of being in a war, there are always really tough decisions, but multiple variables need to be considered. And so we need leaders who can know what the most important things to take from any given area. So like, we'll stick with the pandemic. Yes, the medical aspect is hugely important, but logistics matters. Um, Economy matters. Um, the taking care of the health of others outside of just the pandemic matters. And so leaders need to assemble teams of experts that can give them bullet point or that from which the leaders can glean the top two, three bullet points from each of those arenas, and then balance the prudent way to go. And this is why effective leadership is a very rare thing. Effective leadership takes an ability to assimilate multiple factors and to then effectively come up with prudent decisions. And part and parcel of that is a capacity to even place a hierarchy on the different variables. And so, in the example of the pandemic, and again, I'm not saying this is actually happening, but it could be that someone in a decision making position would give like 90% weight to what the virus experts say what should be done. So maybe they give 90% weight to that and 10% weight to keeping the economy going. And it turns out that what really needs to be done is 50-50 or 60-40. And I make no claim to knowing for sure the answer. And any normal citizen who claims to know the answer is kind of showing that they don't know what they don't know, because we don't have all the information we need. But the job of the leader is to recruit those experts and to then assimilate that information, come up with the hierarchy of how to weigh each thing, and come up with effective strategies. Now, what we see over and over again, and this is why I use the pandemic as an example, but I've coached plenty of organizations where what happens is that an expert gets elevated to a position of leadership, and it rarely goes overly well. What oftentimes happens is that, so this is to show you, this talk was not about attacking what's gone on with the pandemic. This is trying to use it to illustrate a bigger issue. And that is that people will be elevated to positions of leadership by virtue of being an expert in a certain field. In corporate America, oftentimes what happens is that the financial experts eventually, as organizations get founded by visionary leaders who can see what should be done. I always go to Bezos because he's so visible. But Bezos saw that Sears shut down their catalog. Business. He saw that books would be easy to sell, so he started there. So many steps considered, but he identified, assimilated, and went forward. And so that kind of visionary leader, whether it's Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, doesn't matter. They're all of the same tribe, and they are visionary leaders. But eventually what happens is those people pass away. They retire. They go away. And the circle of life is such that as they go away, innovation by those companies slows down. Stability of operations starts to take a new priority. And so you migrate over to leadership that has expertise in operations. And then as operations continue, because there's only so much profit you can squeeze out of operations. And so what happens, though, is that then the migration is toward financial experts. And financial experts, and this is what we're going through across the board with all of our mature companies, is financial experts keep trying to squeeze harder and harder to get more and more profits out of something without bringing new vision, new technology and new methods into organizations. And so the challenge with every organization is to employ the discipline to continue to look for those uniquely gifted men and women who have, and it is men and women, who have an ability to take in the bullet points, assimilate, and point an organization in the right direction. And so, there's always a tendency to see an expert who has potentially been instrumental at a given point in time in doing something to help an organization, and oftentimes that can be misinterpreted as a capacity to see the bigger picture. And so, what the meaning of this message, why am I saying all this? Well, as we move forward as a society, we need to, number one, continue to value our experts, continue to hope that people become experts in fields. But the second part of that is to take each expert's slice. And remember, it's a slice of the continuum, and that we need to focus on finding leaders in our businesses and in our governments who have the intuitive capacity, the forward looking capacity to digest information and to move forward prudently. That's what I got. I'm Robert J. Conley, and I will see you next time.